Because we got a break.
It's unfinished business. And there's no doubt in my mind it's the duty of the administration, the armed forces, for both MIAs and prisoners of war, the British government and the American government, to recover these personnel. It's a primary mission. It's just, having been involved in this, it cannot be forgotten, and it won't be. And I'm sure that there's a full court press going on right now in every corner possible of Iraq where these individuals may be held.
General Clark, for the thousands of mothers and wives and family, how long are soldiers going to be there?
My guess is that the first units will start coming home within 30 to 45 days, and that what we've got is this plan of General Franks to bring follow-on forces in. And so you may have forces like the 4th Infantry Division, which only deployed the troops within the last 3 or 4 weeks. They may be looking at another 4 to 6 months of duty before they're replaced by somebody else. But the early arriving forces like the 3rd Infantry Division that have been there for a long time, some of the Marines, I would think that they'll be headed home within a month to 2 months.
Let me get a call in Kingston, Ontario. Hello.
Hello. Number one, I'd like to say thank you for what you guys are doing for them. As a Canadian, I'm embarrassed of our government for not helping more than what they are. It's a little embarrassing, and I want you to know that. My question is the POWs. Do you have any idea where they are, and how do you know that something that you've bombed now might not be where they would have been, and how will you know that?
General Grange?
Yeah, this is a constant intelligence-driven operation. I mean, it changes constantly. It's fleeting information, there's disinformation, all kinds of collection means are used, from satellite overhead to signals intercept to human intelligence using agents. I think they're going to get a lot of information once they start, the more they question people as territory is seized and relationships are established. Information will continue to pour in to try to find out where these people are.
I'm trying to get in one more call quickly. Grand Dig, New Brunswick. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, my question is for anyone.
Yeah.
I wondered if after the war in post-war Iraq, if they would separate Iraq into 3 provinces, the Kurds, the Shiites, and also the middle of Baghdad.
Robin, what do you think?
I think, in fact, that the U.S. is going to work very hard to maintain the territorial integrity of Iraq. This is critical not only for Iraq, but also for all the neighboring countries. This is one of the things that Saudi Arabia, Iran, Syria, Turkey, Jordan, all have been deeply concerned about, and even nations further afield, because if Iraq should fall apart, others could fall apart too.
General Clark, you agree?
I do, but I think there will be strong fractionating forces present in Iraq. It's going to be difficult to keep these 3 parts of Iraq together. It's going to be a principal task of the United States in the early days to make it clear that there can only be one Iraq.
And General Grange, we have about 30 seconds. Any thoughts in that area?
Yes, I think your comment earlier about how long forces will stay in Iraq, I think what's very important, and this also came out earlier with the discussion on Afghanistan, that there has to be a force large enough and with the right mobility and power to continue to put the pressure on any remnants of opposition throughout the country, as well as keep everything together. That takes a substantial force to do that.
Thank you, Brigadier General David Grange, General Wesley Clark, Dima Khatib in Qatar, and Robin Wright, the Chief Diplomatic Correspondent of the Los Angeles Times. More tomorrow night as this historic-making episode continues. Heidi Collins is next with news headlines, and then Aaron Brown takes over and anchors Newsnight. I'm Larry King. Thanks for joining us. Heidi's next. Good night.
Downtown Baghdad this morning, we're seeing evidence of the collapse of any central regime authority. The streets are full of people celebrating.
It's not a question of who is in charge of Iraq, but what is in charge of Iraq. And what is in charge of Iraq is the taste of freedom. And that's what's driving the Iraqi people.
Good evening, everyone.
everyone. I'm Heidi Collins with a quick check of what we know at this hour. The White House said today this isn't a historic moment. But as U.S. troops in Baghdad continued to receive warm welcomes and some hostile fire, the administration also cautioned it's not over yet and more people will die. President Bush got a glimpse of this scene in Baghdad shortly after it happened. They got it down, he said, according to the White House. Iraqis had begun tearing down the Saddam Hussein statue and later dismembered it, dragging the head through the streets. The location of the real Saddam Hussein remains a mystery tonight. Also still a mystery, the location of 7 American POWs, 5 from the 507th Maintenance Company and 2 airmen. A senior military official tells CNN the Pentagon has no new intelligence on their whereabouts or their fate. U.S. search teams have also yet to locate positive evidence of weapons of mass destruction. Among those watching today's events closely were UN staffers. Vice President Dick Cheney today said the UN will play a prominent role in Iraq's post-war transition, but mostly in the area of humanitarian efforts. To other news now, the Los Angeles City Council today made a bid to change South Central LA's image as a place where things fall apart. It was the scene of the riots in 1992 after the Rodney King verdict. They opted for a name change, deciding the Central would not hold. By a vote of 14-0, the name South Los Angeles will soon be on the map. Those are the headlines at this hour. Now to Aaron Brown and more coverage of the war in Iraq.
Well, good evening again, everyone. How many times have we found ourselves saying it lately? So this is what history looks like. History today was a statue falling, it was terror lifting, it was a spell broken, it was people finding their voices again, or perhaps for the very first time.
In one moment and in one shot, the day's story can be told. The rest is just detail. It is just a tale that Marines at first put an American flag on the statue and then quickly replaced it with the Iraqi flag. Just a tale. It was less than 12 hours earlier that American commanders told CNN it looked as if most of the Iraqi regular army inside Baghdad had simply disappeared. But the astonishing speed in which the regime fell, in which Marine units moved in from the east, seemed to surprise virtually everyone, including the Iraqi ambassador to the United Nations.
The game is over. I hope the peace will prevail, and with the Iraqi people, at the end of the day, will have a peaceful life.
What do you mean that the game is over, sir?
The war, I mean.
Some residents swerved over the tank recovery vehicle in front of the statue. They asked for and received yellow packets of food. In some parts of the city, there was widespread looting, people carrying anything and everything. In crowded hospitals, little room for those civilians caught in the crossfire. And in Washington, the watchword over and over again from the Bush administration was caution.
There's a lot more fighting that's going to be done. More people are going to be killed. Let there be no doubt. This is not over, despite all the celebrations on the street.
There was little doubt about that, because only a few miles away from the celebrations of the statue at the University of Baghdad, Marines were in a ferocious firefight with a band of Iraqi militia. They poured fire into 2 pickup trucks, the kind mounted with machine guns and used by the Fedayeen guerrillas. They also destroyed an anti-aircraft gun and its ammunition, sending cascades of fire into the late afternoon sky. On the road to Baghdad, elements of the 101st Airborne charged into a set of buildings that had been used as a headquarters for the Fedayeen. They had been taking fire from the buildings, but when they got there, everyone had disappeared. The celebrations were hardly confined to Baghdad. This one is in Kurdish-controlled territory, the city of Erbil in the north, and this one is in Dearborn, Michigan, home to thousands of Iraqi Americans. Those are the details. But again, one picture and one short piece of sound tell the real story of the day. The picture will take a place in history, as now will the regime of Saddam Hussein.
Saddam Hussein is now taking his rightful place alongside Hitler, Stalin, Lenin, Ceausescu in the pantheon of failed, brutal dictators. And the Iraqi people are well on their way to freedom.
That is the big picture of the day. There are lots of small pieces of the puzzle, but none of them can overshadow the sense that everyone felt this morning here in the East when they watched that statue fall. Before the war, it was virtually impossible to get Iraqis to speak openly about anything at all, except for their rehearsed praise for Saddam Hussein. Reporters had to read an arch of an eyebrow or a subtle gesture. There was nothing subtle today as the statue came down. The emotions were raw and angry and euphoric all at the same time. Here's how that played out, as seen by British reporter Neil Connery.
Into the very heart of Baghdad, US tanks and troops finally arrive, spelling the end for the Iraqi regime. The Stars and Stripes have come to town. Saddam Hussein's reign of terror is over. So nearly 3 weeks after this war began, US forces are now coming into the center of Baghdad. This is what regime change looks like.
Now just keep the truck off to the side. There's too much over here already.
But no one here was taking any chances, checking all the time for possible resistance.
Yes, I did. There's no barrels, nothing on the roof. No.
Pleased to be in Baghdad.
Feeling satisfaction. I guess it's almost over. But I get to go home soon.
What's it like being in the middle of Baghdad?
It's kind of crazy. Pretty good warm welcome from everybody, kind of.
Good luck. Stay safe.
Right, thank you. You too.
The welcome was definitely warm.
Welcome to Baghdad. I say to the American people, and thank you for all things in Iraq.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's up? Thank you.
The president's rule is no more. Years of repression and brutality have been brought to a close.
Everybody here suffer a lot from the unfair regime of Saddam Hussein and all his, his soldiers and the others. And we just want to get rid of him these days. And let's wait and see what's America are heading for us.
Saddam's statue soon became the focus of the crowd's anger. In front of our hotel, Iraqis were burning pictures of the president. Back at the statue, they'd found a ladder and a rope. The people were determined to topple Saddam. Tell me, will you bring this statue down? A few hours later, they'd found a crane to do the job. For decades, his image could be seen at almost every turn in this country, but everything has changed here now. And then, as evening fell, so did Saddam, removed from power. They are a people free at last to express what they really think. Saddam has gone. Neil Connery, Baghdad.
A breathtaking day. Craig Nelson of the Cox News Service, the big broadcasting and newspaper company, is at the Palestine Hotel across the square from where the statue fell, and he joins us now. What was the night like there, Craig?
It was quite a quiet night until 2 or 3 hours ago. There was a great deal of relief around the hotel. There are dozens of U.S. tanks and armored personnel carriers and hundreds of Marines. But about 2 or 3 hours ago, there were explosions on the horizon, and there have been sporadic explosions since. So it's a reminder that the war isn't over. There was a dramatic day yesterday with some incredible psychological change here in the population in Baghdad. But the war goes on. There are pockets of the city where there's looting, there's violence, and there's no government, no administration in control. So this remains a very volatile place.
Did people just start to drift away as night came, go back to their homes? The people who were celebrating that we all saw?
Yes, I mean, a large percentage of Baghdad's population actually had left the city. This is a deserted, in many neighborhoods there's simply no cars on the street and the houses are empty. So people went back to their homes, those that had remained in Baghdad, and we'll see what happens today. Today should be a very interesting day as dawn breaks over behind me. We'll see how many come out and see what their reaction is to the changes that have transformed this place in the last 24 hours.
Generally, the conditions in the city, is there electricity in most places? Is there water running in most places?
No, electricity and water are sporadic, especially on the outskirts of the city. There have been frequent power outages. There's starting to be great concerns by the International Committee of the Red Cross and other NGOs about water. So there's a looming humanitarian crisis. There's a looming problem with security. It's definitely there's definitely a series of problems here that have to be taken care of. We talked to the Marine commander here last night, who was in charge of the Marine armored unit that came in here yesterday, and he said, we're in the war-making business, not the policing business. And he was very, very concerned about getting troops and other U.S. forces in here who could do the policing. He recognizes that that's a big need right now.
Tell me a bit about the moment that you, that you came to realize that the government had fallen, that there was this historic moment that you were about to witness.
Well, I realized it early this morning when some colleagues and I went to a vegetable market that we've been going to quite frequently just to gauge the mood. And what we found there were people that were telling us stories that they hadn't told us before. All the inhibitions that they had previously, most of them were gone. They were telling us about their history, what had happened to their brothers or sisters in Iraqi prisons. They told us about how either angry or sad that they were about what the Americans were doing. Regardless of what the emotion was, what was amazing about it is that it was being expressed. Now, one important caveat here is that many of these people refuse to give us their names. The fear isn't going to go away overnight. It remains here, and it's going to be a factor in how the administration shapes up here as slowly the apparatus of Saddam's regime falls apart and dissolves.
Craig, thanks for your time. Get some sleep. Probably been a while. We appreciate your good work all day long. Thank you. Craig Nelson, who's with the Cox newspaper chain, a big broadcasting communications company. As we were going off the air early this morning, 2 o'clock this morning, we had gotten word that, Rogers reported that all the Iraqi troops, according to U.S. military sources, had left, and Reem Brahimi, talking to her sources in Amman, Jordan, had gotten word that the city was quiet, all the minders were gone, all the government officials seemed to be gone, and we left the air saying, over a picture of Baghdad, who knows what this day will bring. We couldn't have imagined, nor could many of you, I expect, imagined what the day brings. I don't know that they imagined it at the White House. It would end quite the way it did. But that scene was certainly seen at the White House, the statue toppling. We're joined by our senior White House correspondent tonight, John King. John, good evening.
Good evening to you, Aaron. President Bush watched some of those celebrations in the streets of Baghdad around the statue of Saddam. Make no mistake about it, the president is quite pleased, but he's a bit concerned that those pictures might convince the American people mission accomplished. The president is telling top aides, don't declare victory yet. There are still dangerous days ahead.
A powerful snapshot, but with the celebration came a challenge for a White House determined to make clear down does not mean out, and that the war is hardly over.
There may well be hard fighting yet ahead. Regime forces are still in control in northern Iraq, in Mosul, and Kirkuk, and Tikrit.
Yet with the caution came a small dose of "we told you so."
In the early days of the war, the plan was criticized by some retired military officers embedded in TV studios. But with every day and every advance by our coalition forces, the wisdom of that plan becomes more apparent.
As the troops press on, the administration is accelerating planning for post-war Iraq. Retired Army General Jay Garner leads the civil authority that will move in soon and run key services until power can be handed over to a new interim Iraqi authority. The administration blueprint still has no firm timetable for getting the interim authority up and running, but planning meetings in southern Iraq will begin as early as next week, involving a mix of indigenous Iraqis and exiles and dissidents now returning home, with General Tommy Franks in charge of the invitations. The hope is with Saddam Hussein out of the picture, local leaders will naturally emerge to help shape the new authority.
The president has very high levels of faith in the ability of the Iraqi people to govern themselves and make these decisions for themselves.
Iraqi National Congress leader Ahmed Chalabi is a favorite of many top Bush advisors and will be among those invited to post-war planning sessions. But his complaints that the administration is moving too slowly with reconstruction efforts have annoyed even some of his top administration supporters. And officials stress he is but one of many voices in the post-war political debate. And we are told before this week is out, perhaps as early as tomorrow, the president himself will lay out his sense of the challenges still ahead. Behind the scenes here at the White House, a palpable sense of vindication. And while caution remains the public watchword, the guidance to all aides here, do not gloat. You're hearing administration believing that victory is at hand, not only in Iraq, the vice president saying today he believes when this war is over, there will be a powerful domino effect, this administration believes, across the Middle East. Aaron?
Well, that was one of the underlying themes for the administration. It is not by accident, I assume, that we did not see the president today.
Not an accident at all. They did not want the president out because they believe that would be moving the bar, if you will, that if we saw the president talking about those remarkable scenes, there was no way for him not to get excited, to get animated, and the White House does not want to leave the impression that this is over by any means. There is a great glee here at the White House, if you will, that those pictures and those stories Craig Nelson was just talking about will send a powerful message across the Arab world. Some concern at the White House, though, that those pictures will affect public opinion here at home. Those troops are going to be in Iraq for some time to come, and over the next several days and weeks, there could be more fighting and more casualties. The White House is worried the American people might get too relaxed.
John, thank you. Good to have you with us tonight. Our senior White House correspondent, John King. There was another president we didn't see today. That was Saddam Hussein. Not knowing what became of Saddam has to add a sense of caution being expressed by the administration. At some point, he may simply become irrelevant, as pictures today seem to indicate. But clearly, the wish is for the boogeyman to be gone or to be dead or to be captured, not merely missing. CNN's David Ensor, national security correspondent, joins us with the Saddam part of the story. David, good evening.
Well, Aaron, as we've seen already, Saddam Hussein's regime is evaporating, but his fate remains unknown, and it is not without consequence. As the regime appeared to go up in smoke, U.S. officials said its control in Baghdad has disintegrated. As for Saddam Hussein, officials still don't know his fate.
He's either dead, or he's incapacitated, or he's healthy and cowering in some tunnel someplace, trying to avoid being caught.
He is still important because there are people who will continue to fight as long as he is alive.
Rumors flew that Saddam might be in the Russian embassy in Baghdad. False, said the Russians, and U.S. officials too. It seemed clear after meetings at the White House that senior intelligence officials were pleased with the way things are going. But urgent tasks remain, including finding weapons of mass destruction, keeping any of them from moving out of the country. The U.S. is offering rewards and amnesty for help. U.S. intelligence must also account for all the members of the regime, the intelligence, the police, the Fedayeen Saddam that may still be alive, and figure out who in Iraq can be trusted. It is a mammoth task.
Vet Iraqi personnel, vet Iraqi bureaucrats, determine those who really do have enough blood on their hands that they probably should be excluded from a post-war administration, and those who can be brought back in and help to set up a new transitional authority to help to administer the country.
Then there are the neighbors to worry about. Secretary Rumsfeld complained about the role of Syria.
Senior regime people are moving out of Iraq into Syria, and Syria is continuing to send things into Iraq. We find it notably unhelpful.
U.S. officials say despite a lot of rumors, they have no solid information that any senior Iraqi officials have entered Syria, though some of their families have. That border is being watched very closely by the U.S. And Aaron, one more taste of the kind of flavor about Saddam Hussein that we're hearing right now. Another report on another network this evening said that Saddam had survived. This person's sources said he had been in the restaurant next to the building that was struck on Monday night. His bodyguards had pulled him out and rushed him off in a car which might have been attacked, but they believed had gotten away. I've spoken to a couple of U.S. officials this evening who say they heard that rumor. They're not sure if it's true or not. Aaron?
Well, I assume that the region is full of rumor. One of the great mysteries, David, is what happened to the regime literally over the last 24 hours. There was a sense that everybody just sort of up and disappeared. Presumably, there is intelligence on this. Are we able to figure it out?
Well, interestingly, this morning, first calls that I made, I was hearing from officials that they were fascinated that not one member of Saddam Hussein's cabinet had reported for work today. Nobody came into the ministries. They were empty, and there weren't any guards. It was really quite extraordinary.
Someday we'll know the answer to that. David, thank you. Our national security correspondent, David Ensor. When the defense secretary said there's more fighting to be done, he could point due north of Baghdad to prove it. Iraqi forces are still holding on in many spots across the north, but that did not stop people in Kurdish-controlled Iraq from rejoicing. For the Kurds, this is bitterly personal. The scars they have come from Saddam Hussein. They are both emotional and literal. More on their story today from CNN's Ben Wiedemann, who joins us now. Ben, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Aaron. Well, it didn't take long for that news from Baghdad to spread throughout the Kurdish-controlled areas of Iraq. Here in Erbil, there was immediate reaction to the news of the apparent collapse of Saddam Hussein's authority in Baghdad.
It's hard not to love a winner, especially when the guy on your side looks like he's clobbering the neighborhood bully. It didn't take long for the news from Baghdad to reach the Kurdish stronghold of Erbil and send the people here out dancing in the streets. A new face has joined Kurdistan's collection of old heroes.
Mr. Bush, because the leader of the United States like freedom for Kurdish and any war.
This part of Iraq has been free from Saddam Hussein's control since 1991. The statues and posters of the Iraqi leader torn down years ago. But still pervasive until today was the fear that Saddam Hussein would once again unleash his chemical weapons on the rebellious Kurds.
And one sobering thought in all of this is that despite the dramatic changes we've seen in Baghdad, here in northern Iraq, the Iraqi army still is very much in control of the cities of Kirkuk and Mosul. So even though there have been some changes, some movement on the front lines in the last 24 hours, there's still about 100,000 Iraqis under arms in the north of the country. Aaron?
Ben, thank you. Ben Wiedemann, who's been up in the northern part of Iraq for a while now. Simon Robinson is on the phone. He is with Time magazine in Baghdad. He witnessed the statue coming down, and in fact this morning we heard him describe it. Simon's good to have you with us. At what point in the day did you realize that you were going to report history?
Only very shortly before it happened. The group, the Marine battalion that I was traveling with, Aaron, moved out around lunchtime to push north from the southeastern suburbs of Baghdad. They were to clear an area. They quickly realized that the area didn't really need clearing because they weren't coming up against any sort of resistance and finding very little. So they pressed much further ahead than they had expected to on orders from their higher-ups. And within around half an hour, they were sitting in one of the central squares in eastern Baghdad with a lot of Iraqis coming out onto the roads, clapping and cheering. And then those amazing scenes that we saw soon after where first the Iraqis were pelting the statue of Saddam with their shoes, which in the Arab world is a very strong insult. And then the Marine battalion, one of their tanks, drove up onto the center of the square and used a winch to pull over the statue of Saddam, to the crowd's delight.
Simon, was it clear even early in the morning that something on the ground in Baghdad had changed overnight?
Perhaps even the day before, the battalion that I had been traveling with from Kuwait had crossed a river in southeastern Baghdad, and sister battalions within the 7th Marine Regiment had also managed to do that. And commanders were talking about they'd broken the will of the Iraqi soldiers to fight. They really came up against very little resistance from Tuesday morning. So all Tuesday and Wednesday, they were able to move fairly quickly. That's not to say that there weren't pockets of resistance, and indeed there was fighting only around 2 miles from the scenes that we saw today in a university compound, but fairly small pockets relative to the fights that they've had up to this point.
Simon, your commentary this morning was gripping to those of us who are watching it. We thank you for your time tonight. Simon Robinson, who's correspondent with Time magazine. We haven't heard a thing from the Iraqi government except what you're about to hear. It came from their UN ambassador in New York as he was moving back into his residence. It was short and very quick, and you have to listen carefully to hear it.
Over. My hope now is peace for everybody.
Okay, let's just wait.
This is what I have. I have no more.
Since you're only going to say it once, let us just get it set up.
Sorry?
We're here. Let me just ask you.
No, I have no. I cannot answer your question. I told you. I repeat it again. The game is over. I hope the peace will prevail, and with the Iraqi people, at the end of the day, will have a peaceful life.
What do you mean that the game is over, sir?
The war, I mean.
So you're convinced the war is over?
Yeah.
What is the situation with Saddam Hussein?
Well, I don't know. This is perhaps the American knows. I have no relationship with Saddam, so I can't tell you. I am here like you.
Explain to me, sir. What do you mean you have no relationship with Saddam? What does that mean?
No, I have no communication with Iraq. I am here, so I know nothing about what is going there.
What do you make, sir, of the pictures you've seen of?
That seems to be what's left of the Iraqi government. One diplomat in New York, Christiane Amanpour, is in Kuwait tonight, but not for long. She joins us from there. Christiane, it's good to see you.
Aaron, good morning. You can imagine Kuwait is the most interested neighbor of Iraq and is very, very pleased that this has happened. We have one little element to show you here, the morning paper, Saddam off his pedestal, and that pretty much sums up what the Kuwaitis have been hoping for the last 12 years. During yesterday's live pictures of the bringing down of that statue, anchors here were saying God is great, using the Arabic Allah Akbar. By contrast, of course, this is being reacted in different ways in different Arab capitals. Syria, which has been the most vocal against the war, showed pictures of what happened but did not show jubilation, and also showed the civilian casualties, of which there were many, that were being taken into hospitals and reporting that ambulances couldn't get them and evacuate people from areas that were still something of a firefight zone in Iraq. But I think the overwhelming feeling that we're getting from the Arab press is that they are just surprised. They don't understand how this happened so quickly. Many people around the world believed the years of propaganda that has come out of Baghdad, that there would be a stiff fight, that the Republican Guards and the Special Republican Guards and the Special Security Organization, all these names and acronyms that have been raised as these, big tigers, in fact turned out to be paper tigers, and people are having a hard time digesting that in the Arab world and trying to come to terms with the pictures of the historic nature of what happened there yesterday and the jubilation we've seen, although of course that is still quite limited. Nonetheless, they're still having difficulty coming to terms with that, and I think that's going to be an important challenge for people around the Arab and Muslim world. How did this happen so quickly? They all want to know where the resistance went to.
You think there's nervousness in the governments around the Arab world about what's to come and this domino theory that the Americans have?
I do think that. I think that there's nervousness in that respect. I think there's relief probably that Saddam is gone. I think there's nervousness about a post-Iraq, a post-war Iraq. Many people genuinely are concerned about the possible factionalization of Iraq. They're looking right now at the looting and the anarchy that's going on in the main big cities that have been liberated, and they're hoping that that doesn't turn into something and descend into something worse. So there is worry about that for sure. And as I say, it's always been the post-war scenario that has caused people in this part of the world the most worry.
Christiane, good to have you with us tonight. I suspect I'll be seeing you soon out there. Thank you very much. Christiane Amanpour. We'll talk with General Wesley Clark and much more. We need to take a break first. Our coverage continues on a historic day in just a moment.
Disciplined investing. It's not about following the crowd. At T. Rowe Price, our independent research means we're not deceived by every market ripple, and we don't chase every fad. Over 70% of our mutual funds beat their 3-, 5-, and 10-year Lipper averages. We have the experience to know what works and the insight to find real opportunity. T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence.
Stop obsessing. Quick Step is the laminate floor designed to take the wear and tear of everyday life. Here, kitty! Quick Step. Floors that stand up.
The power of trust. America's most credible news source, year after year. The power of pictures. Images live the instant the story happens. The power of reporting. More bureaus than any U.S. television news organization. The power of CNN. The most trusted name in news.
I want to get to General Wesley Clark before the half hour. Quickly, General, you warn us often of the to watch ourselves go from elation to depression too quickly. Clearly, the needle moved towards elation.
It did, and justifiably so. I think all of us have to be very proud of the accomplishments of the men and women who did the fighting, and also pleased to see the reaction of the people that we saw on the streets in Baghdad. It's just that we've got to be somewhat circumspect about this, Aaron, because we don't know what lies ahead. And there are near-term challenges, and there are further challenges that need to be explored, considered, and the American people need to recognize what may lie ahead.
And many of those questions are questions we'll put on the table over the next couple of hours with you. We're glad to have you with us. We'll take a break to update the day's headlines, and our coverage continues in a moment.
Introducing a new level of performance from Acura. The all-new TSX.
Even with rheumatoid arthritis, I'm an artist. I'm athletic. I'm a father. And today, I can still be all these things with Enbrel.
Enbrel may reduce the pain, stiffness, and fatigue of moderate to severe RA and inhibit the progression of joint damage.
I'm Eric Lindbergh, and even with RA, I was able to fly solo to Paris, just like my grandfather.
Enbrel, injected twice a week, is not for everyone. The most common side effects in clinical trials were injection site reaction, infection, and headache. Serious infections, nervous system, and blood disorders have also been reported, some fatal. Don't start Enbrel if you have an infection. Use caution if you're prone to one. If you get an infection while on Enbrel, or if you experience persistent fever, bruising, bleeding, or paleness, contact your doctor immediately. Call to learn more about Enbrel.
Because of Enbrel, I can be me.
CNN Tomorrow, the next
phase of the battle for Baghdad. What dangers remain and who will rebuild Iraq? American Morning with Paul Azan, CNN tomorrow.
His first pictures were supposed to be in his mother's arms. His first months, not such a worry. It's no one's fault. We did everything right. Still, our son was born almost 3 months early. And no one knows why. I just wish someone could tell me why.
Attention investors. Right now, there's a volatile situation in the foreign currencies market. Huge profits can be made. With an investment as small as $2,500, you could see returns of $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 or more. In just a few months, the foreign currency market is trading at 10 times the rate of the Dow. You owe it to yourself to check out the huge profit potential in the foreign currency market. Call the number on your screen for your free investment kit. 30 seconds is not enough time to explain this tremendous opportunity.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Heidi Collins with a check of the latest developments. The regime of Saddam Hussein virtually disappeared today as U.S. forces seized control of downtown Baghdad. Joyous Iraqis danced in the streets, celebrating the end of Saddam's rule. But Pentagon officials do caution the war is not over. Iraqi opposition groups say Saddam Hussein may not have died in Monday's airstrike on a Baghdad neighborhood. Iraqi National Congress leader Ahmad Shalabi tells CNN he's received unconfirmed reports that Hussein and one of his sons have taken up refuge in a town northeast of Baghdad. Those same reports indicate Saddam's cousin, known as Chemical Ali, also escaped to that area. It's said to be home to an Iraqi military base and a prisoner of war camp. General Ali Hassan al-Majid was believed killed in a bombing at his home in Basra. The U.S. has moved the Moab to the Persian Gulf. The 21,000-pound bomb was successfully tested last month in Florida, like you see here. The Moab, or Massive Ordnance Air Blast, is the largest conventional bomb in the U.S. military's arsenal. To other news now, Florida is announcing the first case of SARS being spread to a co-worker in the U.S. SARS had previously been transmitted only to household members or healthcare workers. And for the first time, a child may have SARS. Health officials in Florida say the 6-year-old boy may have contracted the disease from a relative who recently traveled to Singapore. There are now 154 suspected cases of SARS in the U.S. Those are the headlines making news at this hour. For now, we'll take a quick break and then be back with more coverage of the war in Iraq.
You know what it takes to reach your goals in life. You're ready to meet any challenge, no matter how great. It takes persistence, performance, and strength. That's why you choose Pacific Life. For insurance, annuities, and investments, rely on the strength of Pacific Life.
Unlike Wall Street, your life doesn't stop every day at 4. Your hopes and dreams go beyond stocks and bonds. At Merrill Lynch, our financial advisors know your financial life goes beyond Wall Street. So their advice goes further too. Introducing Total Merrill. We see your financial life in total.
This year, nearly 1 million families will have their most valuable possessions stolen right from here. It's their own identity. Bank statements, credit card and ATM receipts, pay stubs. In today's world, a little advice. Shred anything you wouldn't want in the hands of a stranger. Hey, Tom.
Protect yourself at home with the shredder more businesses rely on for superior performance and durability. Fellows, the world's toughest shredders.
There was a lot of celebrating today, not just in parts of downtown Baghdad, but also in the heart of Middle America. Jamie Colby is looking at the reaction among Iraqi Americans in different spots around the country, including a very large Arab American community just outside Detroit in Dearborn, Michigan. So, Jamie, it's good to see you again.
Aaron, good to see you too. That's where we are in Dearborn. And like many of us, Iraqis living in the U.S. have been glued to their TVs since this war began, watching coverage and awaiting the news they say they got today. Pictures that suggest the freedoms they've found in America will be restored in Iraq. And though they've resumed their monitoring of the coverage tonight, they say that they were happy to take the day off today, Aaron, hit the streets and celebrate.
Long live Iraqi people! Yeah! Yeah!
In El Cajon, California, Iraqis rejoice for loved ones back home.
I want to thank again United States government for this helping, and also British soldier, British government. I want to thank him for this help. We are very happy.
There is also a sense of relief in Dearborn, Michigan, half a world away from Baghdad. The largest U.S. population of Iraqis lives and took to the streets here to share this victory.
We are 4 million Iraqis in exile. 2 million Iraqis got killed by Saddam. Hundreds of thousands of men and women and children in the prison. So what do you expect? It is a celebration. Thanks God.
Children not old enough to know the horrors the adults lived firsthand joined in to say they are grateful Iraqi children will suffer no more.
We're happy that Saddam Hussein is gone and the children are having peace.
A procession to a rally of 2,000 Iraqis as Dearborn thanks President Bush and coalition forces for a taste of freedom they've waited 35 years to savor.
It's a beautiful day. No, it's not for me, for all Iraqi guys, for all the world.
Iraqis here say never mind whether Saddam's dead or alive, his days in control are done. Though Aoife Kadum, a mother of 5 expelled from her homeland in 1984, has one final wish for Saddam.
I wish he's not dead so I can kill him again, and so I can see him actually dead. That's what I like to see.
And I want to tell you, Aaron, that many Iraqis that I've talked to here in Dearborn say they will return to Iraq, some to live, some to find relatives that were imprisoned by Saddam, and some to do whatever they can to help build the new Iraq. And I also want to show you some video today from that rally. An Al Jazeera reporter took a bit of a beating. They were not very happy to see him. Apparently, Al Jazeera, this was their first visit to Dearborn. They hadn't been covering anything here before. And there was a feeling among the Iraqis at the rally that Al Jazeera has been unfair in its coverage of the war and a bit too pro-Saddam. Aaron?
Jamie, thank you. It's an interesting look there. Jamie Colby had an interesting assignment today. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll show you just how unsafe it remains in Baghdad, or at least how unsafe it was in the moments the statue was coming down. But a break first.
For more on the war in Iraq, log on to CNN.com. Get reports from the front lines.
Huge explosions.
And all the facts and features you need to track the war. Plus, sign up for breaking news alerts and be the first to know. Log on and stay informed at CNN.com.
You know, hon, you could always stay with Fran and Carl.
Ah, you think I'm a hotel?
Maybe we should just get a room when we get into town.
We're booked.
Why don't we call your brother Jeff? He's always traveling.
And always on short notice.
The best deals? It's a no-brainer. Hotels.com. Hotels.com.
Save on thousands of hotels worldwide.
Yes!
Hotels.com. The best prices at the best places, guaranteed.
Miles O'Brien takes you inside the war in Iraq.
A zone of control around Baghdad.
Experience you can trust only on CNN.
Debt Relief Clearinghouse.
99% of the people that we help are people that are trying to make good of the debts they have, and they just find it impossible because they get trapped in the high interest rates the banks charge, and it's very discouraging.
When I was dealing with the credit card companies, they made me feel as if I didn't want to pay my bills.
It just was very uncomfortable to have them call all the time.
So by coming to our services, we give them the chance to see progress. Their statements come in the mail, balances are going down. They know they're getting somewhere.
The Debt Relief Clearinghouse.
I had a couple accounts go to 0%, some went to 6, some went to 9. A lot more of the money went to the balances.
My payments were roughly around $500, and just here recently my
payment has dropped down to $277.
We're able to negotiate with the banks to reduce the interest rates that the consumer is being charged, so the balances do come down.
It's a relief off my shoulders. I finally have control over my debt. It's finally going away.
Call the number on your screen to dramatically lower your interest rates and get out of debt. Call the Debt Relief Clearinghouse now.
Mount Everest, 4 Runners of Adventure.
On the Outdoor Life Network and Comcast. In a trial of skill, endurance, and spirit. From 50 amateur athletes, 12 are selected. For 5 months, they travel the world. The Kalahari Desert, the Costa Rican rainforest, Iceland.
I've wanted to climb
Mount Everest
since I was a little boy.
Global Extremes Mount Everest, 4 Runners of Adventure. Mondays at 10 p.m. on OLN.
On for about a half an hour.